What if Anakin and Obi-Wan turned to the dark side together in Revenge of the Sith? Folks, this is one that of course is going to go out of character for a lot of characters. That's the fun of it. It's a fan fiction. It's going to get interesting. It's going to get weird, but we're going to have fun with it. So enjoy. Don't take it too seriously. I know not everything is too in character for all these people, but that's the point of the fan fiction. Let's have some fun. Alright, hope you enjoy. Let's get right into it. For the last few months of the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi was fighting off the temptation of the dark side. It was a temptation that had bit at him for years, ever since the death of his master. That day, on Naboo, Obi-Wan dove into the dark side to defeat Maul, and it wasn't enough. In the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan faced Maul again, and this time he'd failed to save the woman that he loved, the same way that he failed to save his master. Now, as Anakin and Obi-Wan traveled through hyperspace, on their way to rescue the Chancellor from Dooku, the darkness was once again rising to the surface. And then there was Anakin Skywalker, known around the Republic as the hero with no fear, secretly keeping his fear, anger, and suffering hidden deep within himself. He was a hero of the Republic and the Jedi Order, but he was also a husband to the woman of his dreams. He would do anything to keep her safe, and throughout this, he'd grown more and more frustrated with the Jedi, the Chancellor, and the Republic. The war needed to end. Obi-Wan and Anakin were both being tempted by the darkness, and as they stood together on this Republic cruiser in hyperspace, their minds seemed to connect. In a brief moment, both of them felt the darkness tugging at each other. They locked eyes in a moment of clarity and understanding, and both of them excused themselves from the bridge, and soon it was just the two of them in their quarters. The quiet, smooth feeling of hyperspace travel surrounded them, as Anakin asked Obi-Wan what it was, and after a brief hesitation, Obi-Wan spoke, saying that he has reservations about the war, about the Republic, about all of it. He said that he fears the democracy they were serving no longer exists. Every day more clone troopers are created, trillions of beings are dying, and there's no sign of peace talks from either side. Obi-Wan says something feels off about the whole thing, and it all starts at the top. The Chancellor is corrupt, and then Obi-Wan said that even the Jedi Council is a problem. He expected Anakin to be angry, confused. He was, after all, great friends with the Chancellor, and at least one member of the Senate, but instead Anakin simply said that he agrees. The two of them had been on the front lines more than any other Jedi. They've seen such terrible things, and neither of them knew if it was worth it at all. Then Anakin spoke again, asking what if they end the war today, together. Obi-Wan would be lying if he said he hadn't thought about it, and scratching his beard as he always did, he asked Anakin how they would do it. And Anakin said it was rather simple. They board the ship with Dooku, Grievous, and Palpatine, and they leave with all three of them destroyed. Perhaps the three most important people in the war, gone in an instant. And Obi-Wan said this was treason of the highest level, immediate expulsion from the Jedi Order, and risk of execution from the Senate, and doing this would send them down a dark path. Anakin said no one would have to know, it could all look like an accident, and from there, a new system could be put into place, a peaceful one, from them. Obi-Wan was sitting down now with his face in his hands. Deep down, he wanted to do this, but it went against everything he'd ever stood for. And now Anakin was pacing the room when he told Obi-Wan they simply had to ask themselves what they want to do, and what they think is right for the galaxy. Obi-Wan said if they do this, there is no going back. Anakin nodded, and the cruiser emerged above Coruscant, where the battle for the galaxy was taking place. The two of them would get into their Jedi starfighters and fly through the battle, eventually making their way to the ship containing Palpatine, Dooku, and Grievous. As the two of them got into the elevator, a darkness began to radiate off of them. Darth Sidious and Count Dooku watched the battle together, with Sidious strapped into the chair. Sidious cocked his head as he felt into the Force. There was a mysterious darkness somewhere aboard this ship. He knew Anakin and Obi-Wan were on the way, and he wondered if Anakin coming to rescue his captured friend was pushing him into the dark side. This, Sidious thought, was good. And soon after, the two of them entered the room with a plan, and Dooku jumped down from the ledge to confront the two Jedi. Anakin said that this day will be his last. The Jedi knew that Dooku could be taken aback with a big surprise, and they needed Palpatine dead after all. So Anakin ignited his saber, and in one quick motion, he threw it spinning through the air at Palpatine. But as Anakin watched the lightsaber get within 1 inch of Palpatine, it stopped before it could cut him. Anakin was astonished, but Palpatine began to smile. Not his usual warming smile, but one laced with evil. Obi-Wan turned as well, realizing with Anakin that this whole time, Palpatine was the Sith Lord. And for Palpatine, the whole plan was ruined. But perhaps a new one was in play. He released himself from the restraints with the Force and grabbed Anakin's lightsaber from the air. It was clear now to him that Anakin and Obi-Wan were working together in this plot to destroy him. So he asked whether this was a plot from the Jedi Council, or if they were going rogue. The two Jedi had no choice but to see where this went, so they admitted they were acting alone. Sidious said this was good, and gave Anakin's lightsaber back to him. Then he said they will take over the galaxy together, and told the Jedi to kill Dooku. Dooku had been listening to this all, both confused and intrigued, but his whole world crashed in on itself when Sidious told the Jedi to kill him. He would have to prove himself to his master once more, and he ignited his lightsaber at the same time as Anakin and Obi-Wan. The three of them engaged in a duel, and it was one Dooku was still confident that he could win. But the dark aura surrounding these two Jedi gave them power, and quickly, Dooku came to a realization. This pair of Jedi fools had somehow become extremely dangerous. As the battle went on, one red lightsaber versus two connected blue ones, fighting with each other excellently. Dooku found himself stumbling backwards, and soon he was pinned against the wall. The laughter from Sidious rang from every corner of the room as Dooku blocked strike after strike, unable to recover at all for his own offensive push. He used lightning to get some separation, but was completely caught off guard when Anakin caught the Force lightning and blasted it back at him, sending Dooku crashing to the floor. With both Jedi embracing the dark side, Dooku was completely caught off guard, and the last thing he ever saw was the swing of Anakin's lightsaber right at his head. Anakin felt the dark side coursing through him as he stood over Dooku, and Obi-Wan came to his side. Obi-Wan looked at Anakin and whispered that they were not done yet. Palpatine continued to laugh, saying they had done well. But once again, in a quick motion, Anakin threw his lightsaber at the Sith Lord. It flew by Palpatine without coming close, and he turned to watch the lightsaber, scoffing at this failure once again. But as he did this, Obi-Wan force-pushed Sidious as hard as he could. Almost simultaneously, the lightsaber cut open the window behind them, and the vacuum of space pulled Palpatine right into it as he was flying through the air from the force push, and this was all before he could even understand what was going on. Anakin and Obi-Wan held on to a railing as the automatic safety window was closed. Palpatine was gone into the void of space, and Anakin pulled his lightsaber back. The Sith were gone. Or were they? Perhaps the Sith were simply being replaced, and the two of them escaped from the ship in their original starfighters, but not before ejecting every single escape pod. With the pods gone, and a majority of fire still focused on the main Separatist cruiser, it was destroyed with General Grievous still inside. Anakin and Obi-Wan returned to Coruscant, using the Force to mask their darkness that they were now embracing. The Separatists would be forced to surrender in no time, and then the two of them would enact their next idea. The war would still go on for a few days, if not a week or so, capturing the final Separatist leaders. This was good. And that first night, Anakin slept with Padme, and the two of them talked about the war. Padme asked Anakin if he thought the democracy that they were fighting for was ruined, and Anakin jumped at the opportunity, saying that she is exactly right. And Anakin began to go on a rant, saying that the corruption goes all the way to the top. He told her now that Palpatine was a Sith Lord, and while being corrupted by the dark side, Anakin lied to her now. He told Padme that the Jedi Council was in on it all. They knew about Palpatine playing both sides, and they were trying to use him and use this war to take over the Republic. Padme couldn't believe it. She didn't know many Jedi as well as she knew Anakin and Obi-Wan, but she thought of them all as good people, doing what is best for the Republic. But Anakin said they were corrupt, thinking only they could truly bring peace to the Republic. And Anakin told Padme that the war is not over yet. there may be more that he and Obi-Wan have to do, and when this is all said and done, they will be in need of strong leadership from the Senate. The good senators. Padme was confused, scared, and hesitant, but the reveal of Palpatine being the most corrupt showed her anything could be possible. This was all more than she could grasp. This was all more than anyone could grasp. She had to trust Anakin to do what was right. And over the next couple days, the war would continue on, but the Republic had the clear advantage. Obi-Wan used his influence in the Council to say that the Council should put its full resources out into the galaxy, end this war swiftly and immediately, and finally they will have peace. The Council knew that Dooku and Grievous were dead, but Anakin and Obi-Wan never revealed that Palpatine was Sidious. This knowledge gave them leverage to continue the war, saying Sidious was still out there, orchestrating his plan. And so the Council acted, sending Jedi around the galaxy to swiftly end this war, once and for all. And once that happened, Obi-Wan and Anakin began their true final plan. They both went to a group of senators, wearing listening recording devices, and asked the senators what they think about the clone troopers, what should be done with them after the war. And it went exactly as they hoped. The senators told the Jedi that the clones were barely even real people. Once the war is over, they will not be needed, and will be largely discarded from the Republic. Anakin and Obi-Wan both got exactly what they needed from the senators, and together they made their way into the Chancellor's office. For now, it was largely abandoned until the Republic could elect a new Chancellor. The Senate was still debating on how to handle the loss of Palpatine, and so Anakin and Obi-Wan were able to relatively easily get into the office and access the comm channel that could transmit a message to all of the clone troopers throughout the galaxy. Anakin spoke to all of the clones now. He began saying that they need to decide what they want when this is all over. Anakin continued on to the clones, saying that the Republic they're fighting for died long ago, and corruption has infected everything. Anakin said that it goes to the top, and he revealed that Palpatine was playing both sides, and then he revealed that Palpatine nor the senators have any plans to help the clones after the war ends. And Anakin played the brief recordings of the senators, saying the clones will have no place in the Republic in the end of the war. And now Anakin lied, saying that the Jedi are all in on it, and he and Obi-Wan have figured it out. Anakin told the clones that they must choose, once and for all, continue to serve this broken, manipulative Republic to their death, or do what must be done right now, take their rightfully earned place in his eventual empire. Only the clones heard this message. The senators, Jedi, and everyone else had no idea what Anakin had just done, but this message resonated with the clones spread throughout the galaxy. So many of them held a special place for the Jedi they were serving. But these revelations of this entire war being orchestrated from the top, along with the senators revealing what they thought of the clones, what the Republic overall thought of the clones, it made the clones want to rise up throughout the galaxy. On Utapau, Felucia, Cato Nemoidia, and many other planets throughout the galaxy, the Jedi fell to the sudden clone uprising. And on Coruscant, the entirety of the 501st was here. Not long after Palpatine and Dooku were killed, Ahsoka had arrived with Rex, the 501st, and Maul. Maul was imprisoned in the temple, and Ahsoka left to go on her own journey. Now, Anakin rounded up the 501st, while Obi-Wan gathered his 212th Legion. Together, as master and apprentice, the two new Sith marched up the temple stairs, with their clone troopers ready for battle. The temple was taken over swiftly, Anakin and Obi-Wan diving fully into their dark side to cut down Jedi in their path, as clones poured through the entrance. Council members Sazi Tin, Aegon Kolar, Kit Fisto, Shaak Ti, and others died defending the temple. Anakin and Obi-Wan were blinded by the dark side. They were convinced what they were doing was right and necessary, but they'd underestimated the impact the dark side had on someone. Once you let it in, it twists your mind. The two Jedi, former heroes of the Republic, were twisted and turned to the dark side, and as they continued to cut their way through the temple, they were separated. Anakin turned a corner to find Mace Windu cutting down 5 of his men. Mace looked exhausted as he turned and locked eyes with Anakin. He could sense the dark side surrounding the boy, and told Anakin he would do what he had to in order to save this Republic. and Anakin said the Republic is already long gone, charging now at Windu. Amidst the chaos of the temple, Anakin clashed with Mace. The air crackled as blue and purple lightsabers clashed against each other, illuminating their strained faces. Anakin's eyes burned with a fierce intensity, fueled by anger, while Mace Windu was determined to bring an end to the treachery that had befallen the Jedi Order. Anakin's aggression was met with Mace Windu's calculated defense. The Force rippled around them, shaking the foundations of the temple as their powers collided. The fight would rage on, neither of them giving an inch. Sparks flew as their lightsabers clashed, casting shadows on the walls of the temple. But in a moment of sheer determination, Anakin channeled the dark side like never before, and with a swift and unexpected move, he managed to disarm Windu, sending his lightsaber flying across the room. Seizing the opportunity now, Anakin struck Mace down with a powerful blow. Mace Windu fell, his eyes mirroring the shock of the moment. He was betrayed by it all. Mace was one of the last to die in the temple, and as he did, the temple fell silent, the echoes of the battle fading away, leaving only the heavy breathing of Anakin and Obi-Wan, surrounded by their troops, now fully consumed by the darkness. Throughout the galaxy, many Jedi would survive, as their clone troopers would refuse to turn, but not nearly enough to stop what was happening. The clones would explain the message to the surviving Jedi, including Grandmaster Yoda, and the survivors would understand that Anakin and Obi-Wan led the clone uprising. The surviving Jedi and clones would have to choose between building a new order to fight back, or go into exile. And on Coruscant, the Senate was gathered in its entirety as a pod rose up from the center. Inside of it were former Jedi Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan explained that they were taking over as new rulers of this republic, and it would be reformed to best suit the galaxy. The Jedi were corrupt, the Senate was corrupt, the Chancellor was corrupt. No more would that happen. The clone troopers would not be discarded. Instead, they would be spread across the galaxy, enforcing security on every planet, and reporting any wrongdoing by senators directly to them. Anakin and Obi-Wan promised to bring peace to the citizens of their new empire. Padme was deeply afraid of what was going on, but she tried to understand that Anakin may need to make these tough choices to reform what had become a terrible system. With Anakin and Obi-Wan taking charge of the Empire, the war would officially end. Peace would come to the planets willing to accept the clone trooper occupation. Padme would go on to have twins, and Anakin planned for them to be the newest members of what would someday be the Sith Army. Padme still didn't know how she felt about all this, and she had to take time to think about it all. But Anakin and Obi-Wan stood together, overlooking their new empire. And folks, that's our story for today. Might do a part 2 depending on how the reception is for this one. It was really out there. Turning Obi-Wan to the dark side, always a challenge. Having the clones turn without it being the inhibitor chip, a challenge. But it's a fan fiction. Wanted to make it fun, wanted to make it interesting, go different than what we usually do here, kind of. So let me know what you thought. Anakin and Obi-Wan ruling an empire together. Again, was it out there? Plot holes galore, maybe? Yeah, sure. But I had fun. I hope you had fun. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like, it helps a lot. And I'll see you in the next video.